The cold wind whipped through the bustling streets of downtown Chicago as commuters hurriedly navigated the sidewalks, faces buried in their scarves. Among the crowd, unnoticed and overlooked, a small wheelchair creaked its way down the cracked pavement. Emily Carter, a 9-year-old girl with piercing green eyes and an oversized jacket that looked 2 winters too old, struggled to maneuver her wheelchair through the maze of indifferent pedestrians. Her fingers, red from the biting chill, gripped the wheels tightly as she avoided colliding with hurried strangers. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice barely audible over the noise of honking cars and murmured conversations. No one stopped. A tall man brushed past her, nearly knocking her out of her path. Emily exhaled sharply, her breath forming a small puff of mist. The wheel of her chair suddenly snagged on a crack in the pavement, jerking her to a halt. She leaned forward, attempting to free it, but the cold had made her hands numb. Frustration bubbled up inside her, and for a moment, her resolve faltered. From across the street, a man stood watching her. Clad in a simple gray hoodie and worn jeans, he looked like an ordinary bystander, just another face in the crowd. But there was something about the way his eyes followed Emily that hinted at deeper curiosity. Elon Musk, unrecognizable without his usual polished demeanor, observed the girl intently. She didn't know him, of course. To Emily, he was just another passerby. But to Elon, she was more than that. There was something about her determination, the way she fought against the chaos around her, that caught his attention. Finally, Emily's wheelchair lurched forward as she managed to dislodge the stuck wheel. Relieved but weary, she began to move again, only to have it malfunction entirely just a few feet later. This time, the right wheel buckled slightly, sending her lurching to one side. She gasped, clutching the armrest to steady herself. Before she could figure out her next move, a pair of strong hands appeared beside her. "Here, let me help you," said a calm, steady voice. Startled, Emily looked up to see the man in the gray hoodie crouched beside her. His face was warm and approachable, with a faint smile that seemed to ease the tension of the moment. I'm fine," she stammered, more out of habit than conviction. He ignored her protest, inspecting the damaged wheel with practiced focus. "Looks like this isn't just a temporary jam. Your axle is loose. Do you have any tools with you?" Emily blinked, surprised by the question. Most adults would have either ignored her or insisted she couldn't fix it herself. This man, however, spoke to her like she was capable, like she was an equal. I have a small wrench in my bag," she admitted reluctantly. "Smart kid," he said with a nod, reaching for the bag hanging on the back of her wheelchair. "You carry tools with you. Prepared for anything, huh?" Emily shrugged. "You have to be." Elon chuckled softly as he tightened the loose axle. "What's your name?" he asked without looking up. "Emily," she replied. "Emily Carter." "Nice to meet you, Emily Carter. I'm Elon." "Just Elon?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Just Elon," he confirmed with a grin. In a few minutes, the wheelchair was operational again. Emily tested it cautiously, rolling forward and backward. "It's working," she exclaimed, her face lighting up with a rare smile. "You're good to go," Elon said, standing and dusting off his hands. "Where are you headed?" Emily hesitated. "Home, I guess. It's not far from here." "Need some help getting there?" he offered. "No, thanks," she replied quickly. She wasn't used to accepting help, especially from strangers. "Fair enough," Elon said, stepping aside. "But take care of that wheel. It won't last forever." She nodded, wheeling herself forward. But before she could disappear into the crowd, Elon called out after her. "Hey, Emily." She turned back, surprised. "Don't ever stop being prepared," he said with a knowing smile. "You never know when the world might throw something unexpected at you." Emily frowned slightly, unsure what to make of his words, but she nodded nonetheless. As she disappeared into the crowd, Elon stood watching for a moment longer, his mind racing with thoughts. "Prepared for anything," he muttered to himself. "Let's see just how far that can take her." Little did Emily know, her chance encounter with the man in the gray hoodie was about to set her life on a path she could never have imagined. Emily wheeled herself into the small apartment she shared with her mother, the sound of the door creaking open announcing her arrival. The warm, slightly musty air of the cramped space was a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. Her mother, Rachel, glanced up from the kitchen, where she was slicing vegetables on a well-worn cutting board. "You're late," Rachel said, concern edging her voice. "Did something happen?" Emily hesitated for a moment, debating whether to mention the man who had helped her. "The wheelchair got stuck again," she said, shrugging. Rachel frowned, wiping her hands on a dish towel as she walked over. "That thing's falling apart, Em. We need to get it fixed properly." "We can't afford it," Emily replied matter-of-factly. "But I tightened the axle and it's fine for now." Rachel sighed and knelt beside her daughter. "I hate that you have to deal with this. You shouldn't have to." "I'm fine, Mom," Emily interrupted, forcing a smile. "Really?" But Rachel could see through her. The weight of the world seemed to rest on Emily's small shoulders, and Rachel hated that her daughter had to grow up so fast. Emily had always been different, too smart for her age, too resilient for her size. Emily rolled past her mother, heading to the cluttered corner of the living room that served as her makeshift workspace. It was a chaotic mess of wires, circuit boards, and tools, but to Emily, it was a sanctuary. She reached for a small gadget she'd been working on, a solar-powered light that she hoped could eventually be used in underprivileged communities. Her hands moved deftly, connecting wires and soldering circuits. It was in moments like these that she felt truly alive, as if the world outside didn't matter. Rachel watched her from the kitchen, a mix of pride and worry etched on her face. "You're still going to that science competition, right?" Emily paused, her hands hovering over the device. "I don't know," she admitted. "The school hasn't approved my project yet. They say it's too complicated to transport my wheelchair and my materials." "That's ridiculous," Rachel said, her voice rising. "You've been working on this for months. They can't just—" "They can," Emily interrupted, her tone resigned. "And they will. It's easier for them to say no than to make an effort." Rachel's jaw tightened. She hated seeing her daughter face so many obstacles, not just because of her disability, but because the world seemed determined to underestimate her. "Maybe I'll find another competition," Emily said, trying to sound optimistic. "Or I'll just keep working on my own. It's not a big deal." "It is a big deal," Rachel said firmly. "You deserve the same opportunities as anyone else. Don't let them take this away from you." Emily didn't respond. She simply went back to her work, her mind already racing with ideas for her next project. But deep down, a small part of her couldn't shake the feeling of defeat. Meanwhile, across town, Elon Musk sat in his modest hotel room, his laptop open to a blank document. He had planned this trip to Chicago to get a ground-level view of the challenges people faced, but his encounter with Emily had thrown his plans into disarray. "Prepared for anything," he muttered again, recalling her words. He started typing, pulling up information about local schools and community programs. His curiosity about Emily wasn't just casual anymore. It had become a spark of inspiration. Her resilience reminded him of himself at her age, when he'd been a lonely boy in South Africa, dreaming of a future no one else could see. He clicked on the school's website and found a list of upcoming events. The science competition was prominently featured, along with a list of student participants. Emily's name wasn't on it. Elon frowned, his fingers tapping the desk. "Why isn't she competing?" he wondered aloud. The next moment, he made a decision. He picked up his phone and dialed his assistant. "Find out everything you can about a girl named Emily Carter," he said. 9 years old, lives here in Chicago. I want to know her story." As he ended the call, a faint smile played on his lips. Something about Emily had struck a chord in him, and he wasn't going to let it go. Back in her tiny apartment, Emily stared at the pile of parts on her desk, feeling the weight of the day pressing down on her. She had no idea that her life was about to change forever. The next morning began like any other for Emily. The faint light of dawn filtered through the thin curtains in their apartment, casting a pale glow over the cramped space. She woke early, as usual, to tinker with her gadgets before school. It was her favorite time of day, quiet and uninterrupted, with only the hum of her projects to keep her company. As she carefully adjusted a circuit in her solar-powered light, there was a knock at the door. It startled her. They rarely had visitors. Her mother, still in her pajamas, came out of the small bedroom, looking equally surprised. Who could that be this early? Rachel muttered, tying her robe around her waist as she approached the door. Peering through the peephole, her brows furrowed in confusion. Standing on the other side was a man in a clean, pressed suit, holding a sleek black briefcase. Behind him, a sleek electric car hummed quietly at the curb. Rachel hesitated for a moment before opening the door. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone wary. "Good morning," the man said with a polite smile. "My name is James Carter. I'm an assistant to Elon Musk. He sent me here to speak with you and your daughter, Emily." Rachel blinked, her mind racing. Elon Musk? The Elon Musk? "That's correct," James said, his voice calm and professional. "May I come in?" Rachel hesitated. A part of her wanted to slam the door and protect Emily from whatever this man was here for. But curiosity, and the faint hope that it might be something good, won out. She stepped aside to let him in. Emily, who had been watching from her desk, wheeled herself forward cautiously. "Who is he, Mom?" "This is someone from Elon Musk's team," Rachel said, still trying to process the words as they came out of her mouth. James knelt slightly to meet Emily's eye level. "You must be Emily," he said warmly. "Mr. Musk told me about you. He was very impressed when he met you yesterday." Emily frowned, confused. "Impressed? By what?" "By you," James replied simply. "Your determination, your resilience, and your curiosity. He sees something special in you, Emily. That's why he sent me here. He wants to offer you an opportunity." Emily glanced at her mother, unsure what to say. "What kind of opportunity?" she asked carefully. James set his briefcase on the small coffee table and opened it, revealing a tablet. He swiped to a presentation, showing diagrams and images of advanced technology. "Mr. Musk is working on a new initiative to empower young innovators, especially those who've faced challenges in life. He believes you'd be a perfect fit for the program." Emily's eyes widened as she stared at the screen. The images of sleek labs, 3D printers, and advanced AI systems felt like they were straight out of a dream. Rachel, however, was more skeptical. "This sounds incredible," she began cautiously. "But why Emily? Why now?" "Because Mr. Musk believes in identifying talent wherever he sees it," James said. "He doesn't care where someone comes from or what they've been through. He cares about potential, and Emily has plenty of it." Emily shifted in her wheelchair, her heart pounding. "What would I have to do?" "For starters, he'd like to invite you to his lab in Austin," James said. "You'd get to work with cutting-edge technology, meet other young innovators, and collaborate on real-world projects. It's a chance to take your ideas to the next level." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. For so long, she'd felt stuck, limited by her wheelchair, by their financial struggles, by the world's low expectations of her. And now, out of nowhere, someone was offering her a way out. Rachel, however, still had her doubts. "This is a lot to take in," she said. "And we don't have the means to travel, let alone afford something like this." James shook his head. "You don't need to worry about any of that. Mr. Musk will cover all expenses, travel, accommodations, everything. He just wants Emily to have the chance she deserves." Rachel glanced at Emily, who was looking at her with pleading eyes. It was clear her daughter wanted this more than anything. I need some time to think about it," Rachel said finally, her protective instincts kicking in. "Of course," James said, standing up. "Take all the time you need. Here's my card. Call me when you've made a decision." He handed Rachel a business card and gave Emily one last encouraging smile before heading to the door. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Emily," he said. "I hope to see you in Austin soon." As the door closed behind him, the apartment fell silent. Emily turned to her mother, her face full of hope. "Mom," she said softly, "this could change everything." Rachel looked at her daughter, torn between fear and faith. She wanted to protect Emily from disappointment, but she also didn't want to hold her back. "I know," Rachel said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just want to make sure it's the right thing for you." Emily nodded, understanding her mother's hesitation. But deep down, she already knew her answer. That night, Rachel sat alone at the kitchen table, the business card James had left resting in front of her. The small print read, James Carter, Special Projects Coordinator for Elon Musk. It looked official, and Rachel's instincts told her the offer was genuine. But she couldn't shake her unease. She glanced toward Emily's room, where the faint glow of her desk lamp spilled through the crack under the door. Rachel knew her daughter was still awake, likely sketching out new ideas or tinkering with her latest invention. Rachel's chest tightened with conflicting emotions. She was proud of Emily, her intelligence, her determination, her creativity, but she also worried. The world hadn't been kind to her daughter, and Rachel feared what might happen if Emily stepped into a world even larger and more competitive than the one they knew. Finally, Rachel stood and walked to Emily's door, knocking softly before pushing it open. Emily looked up from her desk, her face lit with excitement. She'd been working on a diagram for a prototype, a self-adjusting wheelchair that could navigate uneven terrain. "Hey, Mom," she said, setting down her pencil. Rachel smiled faintly and stepped inside, sitting on the edge of Emily's bed. "Still working?" "Always," Emily replied with a grin. Rachel hesitated before speaking. "About what James said earlier. What do you think?" Emily's eyes lit up. "I think it's amazing. Imagine being able to work in a real lab with real engineers. I could finally build something that makes a difference." Rachel's heart ached at the longing in Emily's voice. Her daughter had always dreamed big, despite the limitations life had placed on her. "But what if it's too much?" Rachel asked gently. "It's a lot of pressure, Em, and being so far from home." Emily frowned, her enthusiasm dimming slightly. "I know it's a big deal, Mom, but I can handle it. I've been handling things my whole life." Rachel sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I just don't want you to get hurt. What if it doesn't work out? What if they don't understand you, or they don't give you the support you need?" Emily rolled closer to her mother, her face serious. "I understand why you're scared," she said softly. "But I need this, Mom. I need to prove to myself and to everyone else that I can do more than they expect. Please let me try." Rachel looked into her daughter's determined eyes and felt a swell of pride. Emily wasn't just asking for an opportunity. She was demanding a chance to prove her worth. "Okay," Rachel said finally, her voice trembling. "We'll call James tomorrow and tell him you're in." Emily's face broke into a wide smile. "Really? You mean it?" Rachel nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I mean it, but I'll be right there with you, every step of the way. Deal?" "Deal," Emily said, throwing her arms around her mother. The next morning, Rachel made the call. James answered on the first ring, and by the end of the conversation, travel arrangements had been made. Emily and Rachel would fly to Austin in 2 days, where Elon Musk's team would pick them up and take them to his facility. As the day of their departure approached, Emily's excitement grew. She spent hours packing her tools and gadgets, carefully selecting the projects she wanted to show Elon and his team. Rachel, on the other hand, was a bundle of nerves. She tried to focus on the logistics, making sure Emily's wheelchair was properly secured for the flight, double-checking the address of the facility, but her mind kept drifting to what lay ahead. On the morning of their flight, Rachel and Emily arrived at the airport, their bags in tow. For Emily, it was her first time flying, and her wide-eyed wonder at the bustling terminal was infectious. As they boarded the plane, Rachel couldn't help but glance at her daughter, who was practically bouncing with excitement. For the first time in years, Emily looked truly happy, and Rachel realized that, despite her fears, she'd made the right decision. High above the clouds, Emily stared out the window, her mind racing with possibilities. She had no idea what awaited her in Austin, but she was ready to face it head-on. The sun was shining bright over Austin, Texas, as the sleek black car pulled up to the sprawling campus of Tesla Innovation Center. Emily's eyes widened in awe as she looked out the window. The facility was like nothing she had ever seen. Gleaming buildings made entirely of glass and steel, interconnected by a network of pathways and greenery. Engineers and researchers bustled about, their movements purposeful, their faces alive with excitement. Rachel sat beside her, looking equally stunned. It's like something out of a movie, she whispered. As they stepped out of the car, James was waiting for them. He greeted them with a warm smile and gestured toward the main building. "Welcome to Tesla Innovation Center," he said. "This is where some of the most cutting-edge technology in the world is being developed. And now, Emily, you're going to be a part of it." Emily wheeled herself forward, her eyes darting around to take in every detail. The air buzzed with energy, and she felt a tingle of excitement run down her spine. James led them inside, where they were greeted by a team of staff members. They offered Rachel and Emily refreshments before taking them on a tour of the facility. The labs were like something out of a science fiction novel. Robots zipped across the floors, carrying parts and tools to engineers. Massive 3D printers hummed as they built intricate prototypes layer by layer. Screens displayed complex simulations, and holograms hovered in midair, showcasing new designs for electric vehicles, renewable energy systems, and even space exploration technology. Emily was captivated. Her mind raced with possibilities as she watched engineers collaborate and solve problems in real time. "This is incredible," she whispered to herself. James noticed her amazement and smiled. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Wait until you meet the person who made all of this possible." He led them to a large conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the campus. Inside, a man stood by the window, his back to them. He was dressed casually in jeans and a black t-shirt, but there was no mistaking him. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the man turned around. It was Elon Musk. "Emily," he said, his face lighting up with a genuine smile. "It's great to see you again." Emily was momentarily speechless. She had imagined this moment 100 times, but now that it was happening, she didn't know what to say. "Hi," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Elon walked over and crouched down to her level. "I heard you've got some big ideas," he said. "I'm excited to hear all about them." Emily's confidence began to return. "I do," she said, her voice stronger now. "I want to create technology that helps people, especially people like me." Elon nodded, clearly impressed. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need here," he said. "Let me show you something." He led them to a smaller, more intimate lab down the hall. Inside, a team of engineers was working on a prototype for an exoskeleton design to assist people with mobility challenges. "This is one of our newest projects," Elon explained. "We're trying to develop technology that gives people more independence. I think your perspective could be invaluable here." Emily's eyes lit up as she examined the prototype. "This is amazing," she said. "But I think I know a way to make it even better." The engineers in the room exchanged curious glances. Elon raised an eyebrow. "Oh, let's hear it." Emily wheeled herself closer to the workstation and began explaining her ideas. She talked about integrating advanced AI to allow the exoskeleton to adapt to the user's specific needs in real time. She suggested lightweight materials that would make the device more comfortable and easier to use. The engineers listened intently, nodding as she spoke. Elon smiled, clearly impressed. "Emily," he said, "you're going to fit in perfectly here." Rachel watched from the corner of the room, her heart swelling with pride. For the first time in a long time, she saw her daughter not as someone who needed protection, but as someone who was capable of changing the world. That night, back in their hotel room, Emily couldn't stop talking about everything she had seen and done. She described the labs, the engineers, and the projects with a level of excitement Rachel hadn't seen in years. "Mom," Emily said, her eyes shining, "I feel like I finally belong somewhere." Rachel smiled, tears of happiness welling in her eyes. "You've always belonged, sweetheart," she said. "The world just needed to catch up to you." As Emily drifted off to sleep, her mind filled with dreams of what she would create, Rachel sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. She no longer felt fear, only hope for the incredible journey that lay ahead. The next morning, Emily and Rachel returned to the Tesla Innovation Center, ready to dive into the day ahead. James greeted them in the lobby, holding a tablet with the schedule for Emily's first official day. "You're going to be working closely with our engineering team on the exoskeleton project," James explained as they made their way through the hallways. Elon thought it would be a great way to start. Emily nodded, her excitement bubbling beneath the surface. But as they entered the lab, she was met with a room full of skeptical eyes. The engineers from the day before were polite but distant, clearly unsure how a 12-year-old in a wheelchair could contribute to such a complex project. "Let's get started," one of the senior engineers, Alex, said. He motioned toward a 3D model displayed on a large holographic screen. "This is our current design. We've been struggling with stability issues, particularly on uneven terrain. Any suggestions?" Emily studied the design intently. She could feel the weight of their gazes on her, waiting to see if she had anything to offer. "Have you considered using a gyroscopic stabilizer?" she asked after a moment. "It could help the exoskeleton maintain balance without adding too much weight." Alex raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Interesting idea. But how would you integrate it without interfering with the existing motor systems?" Emily wheeled closer to the workstation, her confidence growing. She picked up a stylus and began sketching on the interactive screen. If you route the stabilizer's control system through the central processor, it could work in tandem with the motors instead of competing with them. The room fell silent as the engineers leaned in to study her design. Alex glanced at his colleagues, then back at Emily. "That might actually work," he said, his tone shifting from skepticism to respect. Encouraged by their response, Emily continued sharing her ideas. She suggested improvements to the exoskeleton's joints to allow for smoother movement and offered a solution for reducing battery consumption. By the time she finished, the atmosphere in the room had completely changed. "Looks like we've got ourselves a new lead innovator," Alex said with a grin, earning a round of chuckles from the team. Emily beamed, feeling a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced before. Later that afternoon, Elon stopped by the lab to check on their progress. He listened as Alex explained Emily's contributions, nodding with approval. "Sounds like you're already making waves," Elon said to Emily. "How does it feel?" Emily hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "It feels right," she said. Elon crouched down to meet her gaze. "Good. Because this is just the beginning. You've got a gift, Emily, and I want to make sure you have every opportunity to use it." Emily felt a swell of gratitude and determination. "Thank you for believing in me," she said. Elon smiled. "I don't believe in you, Emily. I know you're going to do amazing things." As the day came to a close, Emily and Rachel returned to their hotel room, exhausted but exhilarated. Rachel watched as Emily eagerly recounted her day, her hands gesturing wildly as she described the lab and the people she was working with. "You're really settling in, aren't you?" Rachel said, her voice tinged with pride. Emily nodded. "I feel like I finally have a chance to make a difference, Mom. Like I'm part of something bigger." Rachel reached out and took Emily's hand. "You've always had that in you, sweetheart. Now the world gets to see it too." As Emily drifted off to sleep, Rachel sat by the window, reflecting on how far they had come in such a short time. She felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future, a future that, for the first time, seemed full of possibility. The following morning, Emily returned to the lab feeling energized. The team was already buzzing with activity, implementing the changes she had suggested the day before. Alex waved her over, showing her the updated prototype. "Take a look," he said. "We've integrated the gyroscopic stabilizer into the system, just like you suggested. The stability tests have been promising so far." Emily's heart swelled with pride as she watched the exoskeleton move smoothly across a simulation of uneven terrain. But her excitement was short-lived when a sharp voice cut through the air. "Who decided to let a kid redesign our project?" The voice belonged to Claire, another senior engineer who had just entered the lab. She was holding a tablet and scanning through the updated schematics. Her expression was a mixture of disbelief and annoyance. Alex stepped forward, trying to defuse the tension. "Emily's ideas have already improved the design significantly," he said. Claire raised an eyebrow. "I'm sure she's very bright, but this isn't a science fair project. We're developing cutting-edge technology that will impact lives. We can't afford mistakes." Emily's cheeks flushed with embarrassment and anger. She wanted to speak up, but Claire's words had struck a nerve. Elon, who had walked into the lab just moments earlier, stepped in before Emily could respond. "Claire," he said, his tone calm but firm, "innovation doesn't have an age limit. Emily's ideas are here because they work. If you have concerns, let's hear them. But let's keep the conversation productive. Claire hesitated, clearly taken aback by Elon's intervention. I just think we should be cautious, she said, her voice softer now. We're dealing with a lot of moving parts. Exactly, Elon replied. And Emily has already proven she can contribute to those parts. Let's focus on making the best product we can. Emily felt a wave of gratitude as Elon defended her. She glanced at Claire, who gave her a reluctant nod before returning to her workstation. Despite Elon's support, the encounter left Emily shaken. As the day went on, she found herself second-guessing her ideas and hesitating to speak up during discussions. Rachel noticed the change in her daughter when they returned to the hotel that evening. Emily was unusually quiet, her enthusiasm from the previous day dampened. Is everything okay, sweetheart? Rachel asked gently. Emily hesitated, then nodded. I'm fine, she said, but her tone lacked conviction. Rachel wasn't convinced. She sat down beside Emily and took her hand. Talk to me, she said. What's going on? Emily sighed, her shoulders slumping. It's just, some people don't think I belong there, she admitted. What if they're right? What if I mess everything up? Rachel's heart ached at the sight of her daughter's doubt. She cupped Emily's face in her hands and looked into her eyes. Emily, listen to me, she said. You are brilliant, and you have a perspective that no one else does. That's why you're there. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong. Emily nodded, but the uncertainty in her eyes lingered. The next day, Emily returned to the lab with a renewed determination, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched and judged. She threw herself into the work, focusing on perfecting the exoskeleton's design. During a break, Alex approached her. Hey, he said, leaning against the workstation, don't let Claire get to you. She's tough on everyone, not just you. Emily managed a small smile. Thanks, she said. Alex nodded. You're doing great, Emily. Don't doubt that for a second. His words gave her a small boost of confidence, but the weight of Claire's skepticism still hung over her. Later that afternoon, Elon called the team together for a meeting. He stood at the front of the room, a prototype of the exoskeleton displayed on the screen behind him. We're making great progress, he said, his eyes scanning the room. But I want to remind everyone why we're doing this. This isn't just about technology, it's about people. It's about giving them freedom, independence, and dignity. He paused, then turned to Emily. Emily, you understand that better than anyone. Would you share your vision with the team? Emily's heart raced as all eyes turned to her. She took a deep breath and wheeled herself to the front of the room. I know what it's like to feel limited, she began, her voice trembling slightly. To want to do things on your own, but not be able to. That's why this project is so important to me. I want to create something that gives people like me the ability to live their lives without barriers. As she spoke, her confidence grew. She described her ideas for the exoskeleton and the impact she hoped it would have. By the time she finished, the room was silent, the team hanging on her every word. Claire was the first to speak. You're right, she said, her tone softer than before. We're not just building a machine. We're building a lifeline. Thank you for reminding us of that. Emily smiled, feeling a sense of validation she hadn't expected. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged. That evening, Rachel greeted Emily with a hug as she returned to the hotel. You look happier, Rachel said. I am, Emily replied. I think I'm finally starting to find my place. Rachel smiled, her heart swelling with pride. I knew you would. As Emily drifted off to sleep that night, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The next morning, Emily arrived at the lab to find the engineering team buzzing with excitement. Alex approached her with a broad smile. Your stabilizer design passed the real-world test, he said, holding up a tablet showing footage of the exoskeleton navigating a rocky outdoor course with ease. It's the smoothest run we've ever had. Emily's face lit up. Seeing her idea come to life was more rewarding than she could have imagined. Claire approached cautiously, her demeanor noticeably softer than before. I have to admit, she said, crossing her arms, your ideas are not only practical but game-changing. I was wrong to doubt you. Emily blinked in surprise. Thank you, she said sincerely. Claire nodded. Let's keep pushing forward. I'm curious to see what else you've got. As the team worked on refining the prototype, Emily began to explore other possibilities for the exoskeleton. She noticed that while the design was effective for mobility, it lacked features for adaptability. What if we added modular attachments? She suggested during a brainstorming session. People could customize the exoskeleton based on their specific needs, like carrying heavy objects or even climbing stairs with precision. The idea sparked a lively discussion among the engineers. Alex quickly began sketching potential designs, while Claire examined the structural feasibility. Elon, who had been observing quietly from the corner, stepped forward. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need, he said. Emily, you're not just solving problems, you're creating possibilities. Let's explore this further. That afternoon, Emily found herself paired with Dr. Patel, the lead robotics specialist. Dr. Patel was a soft-spoken man with a sharp intellect, and he immediately saw potential in Emily's ideas. We could integrate modular attachments using magnetic connectors, he suggested, pulling up a 3D model on his tablet. It would allow for quick changes without compromising stability. Emily nodded enthusiastically. And we could design a control interface that's intuitive enough for anyone to use, regardless of their physical limitations. They worked side by side, bouncing ideas off each other and sketching out new designs. For the first time, Emily felt like a true collaborator, her voice carrying as much weight as anyone else's. By the end of the day, they had a rough prototype of the modular system. Elon stopped by to review their progress, his eyes lighting up as he examined the design. This has the potential to revolutionize assistive technology, he said. You're building more than just an exoskeleton. You're building a platform for independence. Emily felt a swell of pride. She was no longer just a kid in a wheelchair. She was an innovator, making a real difference in the world. That evening, Emily and Rachel shared dinner in their hotel room, a simple meal of takeout pizza. Rachel listened intently as Emily excitedly recounted the day's events. You sound like you're in your element, Rachel said with a smile. I am, Emily replied, her eyes shining. For the first time, I feel like I'm doing something that matters, not just for me, but for other people too. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed Emily's hand. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. And I know your dad would be too. The mention of her father brought a lump to Emily's throat, but it also strengthened her resolve. She wanted to honor his memory by making the world a better place. Later that night, as Emily lay in bed, her mind raced with ideas for the exoskeleton. She thought about the people who would benefit from their work. Children like her, who just wanted a chance to live life without barriers. She made a silent promise to herself. No matter how hard it got, she would keep pushing forward. Because this wasn't just about technology. It was about giving people hope. The lab was alive with energy the next day, as the team prepared for a live demonstration of the modular exoskeleton. Elon had arranged for a select group of individuals to test the prototype, a mix of adults and children with various mobility challenges. Among them was a young boy named Max, who reminded Emily of her younger self. Max, 8 years old and full of curiosity, rolled into the lab in a brightly colored wheelchair. His eyes widened when he saw the exoskeleton. Is that a robot suit? He asked excitedly. Emily wheeled over to him and smiled. Kind of, she said. It's a special suit to help people move in ways they couldn't before. Max's enthusiasm was contagious. Can I try it? You're going to be one of the first, Emily assured him. The demonstration began with a series of tests to showcase the exoskeleton's capabilities. Alex explained the features to the audience while Dr. Patel managed the technical side. Claire demonstrated how the magnetic modular attachments worked, switching out tools and extensions with ease. Then it was Max's turn. The team carefully strapped him into the exoskeleton, adjusting the fit to ensure his comfort. Emily stayed by his side, offering words of encouragement. Just take it slow, she said. We'll be right here if you need help. Max nodded, his face a mix of excitement and nervousness. As he took his first step, the room fell silent. The exoskeleton moved smoothly, its stabilizers adjusting to his every motion. By his third step, Max was grinning from ear to ear. I'm walking, he exclaimed. The audience broke into applause, and Emily felt a lump form in her throat. This was what it was all about, giving people like Max the freedom to do things they'd only dreamed of. As the day went on, more participants tested the exoskeleton, each one adapting to it in their unique way. An elderly woman used it to climb a small flight of stairs, her hands trembling with emotion as she reached the top. A young man with a spinal injury practiced walking across the room, his determination evident in every step. Emily watched each demonstration with a mix of pride and humility. She realized that their work was bigger than she had ever imagined. After the demonstration, Elon gathered the team for a debrief. "Today was a milestone," he said, "but it's just the beginning. We've seen what this technology can do, and now we need to refine it even further." He turned to Emily. "Your vision has been at the heart of this project. What do you think we should focus on next?" Emily hesitated, taken aback by the question. But then she thought of Max and the others who had tested the exoskeleton. "We need to make it more accessible," she said. "Affordable, easy to use, and adaptable to different needs. Everyone should have a chance to use this, not just a select few." Elon nodded thoughtfully. "Agreed. Accessibility will be our next challenge, and I have no doubt you'll help us find a way." That evening, Emily and Rachel went for a walk along a nearby park trail. Emily was quiet, lost in thought as the events of the day replayed in her mind. "You've come a long way," Rachel said, breaking the silence. Emily smiled. "It doesn't feel real sometimes. But seeing Max walk today, it reminded me why I wanted to do this in the first place." Rachel placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. "You've given him a gift, Emily, and you're just getting started." As they watched the sunset, Emily felt a sense of peace. For the first time, she truly believed she was capable of changing the world. The following week brought new challenges and opportunities. Emily spent hours in the lab, working with the engineers to perfect the exoskeleton's design. They focused on increasing its efficiency and refining its accessibility, ensuring that it could be used by people of all ages and abilities. Despite the progress, there was a lingering pressure. The team had gained attention from major investors, but there was still much work to be done before they could take the product to market. Elon called a meeting with the core team to discuss the next steps. Emily entered the conference room, her heart pounding with anticipation. This was a crucial moment in their journey, and she knew that the decisions made here would impact everything. Elon greeted the group with his usual enthusiasm. "All right, team, we've come a long way, but we're not done yet. We need to figure out how to bring this technology to the masses." Emily sat up straighter, her mind racing with ideas. She had been thinking about how to make the exoskeleton not only accessible, but also affordable. After all, what good was an incredible product if it wasn't available to the people who needed it most? "I think we should explore manufacturing partnerships with organizations that specialize in assistive technologies," Emily suggested. "They already have the infrastructure in place to distribute products to hospitals, rehab centers, and individuals with disabilities." Claire, who had become more supportive of Emily's ideas, nodded in agreement. "That's a great point. We could scale faster if we tap into those existing networks." Elon turned to Alex. "What's the timeline for production?" Alex flipped through his notes, then responded. "We're looking at about 6 months to finalize the design and secure production contracts. But that doesn't account for the inevitable testing and revisions." Emily's stomach tightened. 6 months seemed so close, yet so far. There was still so much to do. "Let's focus on making the exoskeleton as versatile as possible," Elon said, standing up and pacing. "But we also need to make it cost-effective. We'll need a model that works for both high-end users and those who need a more affordable version." The team nodded in unison. They all understood the gravity of the task ahead. This wasn't just about making a revolutionary product. It was about making sure everyone, no matter their financial situation, could benefit from it. Over the next few weeks, Emily found herself juggling multiple roles. She continued working on the exoskeleton design, but she also met with several advocacy groups for people with disabilities. She wanted to understand their needs on a deeper level, to ensure that the exoskeleton would truly improve their lives. At one such meeting, she sat across from a mother named Jennifer, whose son, Mark, had cerebral palsy. Jennifer spoke passionately about the difficulties her son faced in daily life, from simple tasks like reaching for a cup to more complex activities like playing sports. Mark dreams of running, Jennifer said, her voice tinged with emotion. But right now, he's confined to a wheelchair. I just want him to have a chance to experience the world the way other kids do. Emily's heart ached as she listened to Jennifer's words. She couldn't imagine the frustration of watching someone you love struggle every day. But she also knew that the exoskeleton could change everything for Mark and kids like him. After the meeting, Emily shared her thoughts with Elon. We need to build the exoskeleton with kids in mind. They need something that's not only functional but also fun, something they'll want to wear. Elon looked thoughtful. I like that. We'll make it adaptable and appealing. Let's see if we can incorporate some flexibility in the design for different age groups. Weeks turned into months, and the pressure continued to mount. The team worked tirelessly, making adjustments to the exoskeleton's design and testing it with various user groups. Each test brought new insights, but there were always challenges to overcome. One evening, as Emily reviewed the latest design mock-ups, she felt a sense of exhaustion. She was proud of how far they had come, but there were moments when the weight of the project seemed overwhelming. Rachel, who had been her rock through all the ups and downs, sat beside her and offered a comforting smile. You've done so much already, Emily. You're changing lives. Don't forget that. Emily sighed, leaning back in her chair. I just want to make sure we get it right. I don't want anyone to feel left out or like they didn't get the best possible version of this technology. Rachel's voice softened. You're already doing more than anyone could ever expect, and you're doing it for all the right reasons. Just remember to take care of yourself, too. Emily nodded, grateful for Rachel's unwavering support. Finally, the day came when the exoskeleton was ready for its first real-world deployment. The team had worked endlessly to fine-tune the design, and now it was time to see how it would perform outside of the lab. Elon, Emily, and the team gathered in a large hall, where a crowd of investors, medical professionals, and advocates were waiting. Emily stood beside Elon as he prepared to speak. This is a moment we've all been working toward, Elon began. Today, we unveil something that will change the lives of millions. And we're just getting started. He turned to Emily, placing a hand on her shoulder. Emily, this is your vision. You've made it a reality. The crowd erupted in applause as Emily stepped forward, her heart racing. She had come so far, and now it was time to see the exoskeleton in action. As the first participant strapped into the exoskeleton and took their first step, Emily felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This was it, the culmination of her hard work, her passion, and her unwavering belief in the power of innovation. This was just the beginning. The unveiling of the exoskeleton marked a turning point, not just for Emily and her team, but for the world of medical technology. The first few days after the launch were a whirlwind of press coverage, interviews, and meetings with potential partners. Elon, as always, was a driving force in the media, but Emily found herself in the spotlight too. For the first time, she could see how the exoskeleton could truly change lives. People who had been confined to wheelchairs for years were standing and walking. The smile on a mother's face as her child took their first steps in the exoskeleton was priceless. It wasn't just a product, it was a lifeline. Despite the overwhelming success, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that the journey was far from over. The exoskeleton was revolutionary, but it was still just the beginning of what could be achieved. There was so much more to do. That evening, as Emily sat in her office reviewing the latest feedback, Rachel stopped by. You're looking a little worn out, Rachel said, taking a seat across from her. How are you holding up? Emily smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's just a lot. I feel like there's always another hurdle to jump over, another person to convince, another partnership to secure. Rachel nodded, understanding. The work is never truly done, is it? Emily shook her head. No, and as much as we've achieved, there's so much more I want to do. I want this technology to reach every person who needs it, no matter where they live, no matter their financial situation. Rachel leaned forward. And you will, Emily. One step at a time. Emily smiled softly, grateful for Rachel's encouragement. Thanks. I needed that. The next morning, Elon called for another team meeting. Emily joined the rest of the group in the conference room, where Elon was already sitting with his usual intensity. We've received requests from multiple countries to bring the exoskeleton to their healthcare systems, Elon announced. This is huge, but it also means we need to scale faster than we ever anticipated. Emily felt a rush of excitement. Expanding internationally was a dream come true, but it also came with its own set of challenges. We'll need to work with local governments and healthcare providers to ensure the product meets their needs, she said. It's not just about the technology. It's about understanding the cultural and logistical factors in each region. Elon nodded. Exactly. I want Emily and Alex to head this international expansion. You'll be in charge of coordinating with partners across different countries, making sure we can meet the demand and adapt the product as needed. Emily's heart raced. This was a big responsibility, but it was also a huge opportunity. We'll get to work on it immediately, she said, her voice steady. In the weeks that followed, Emily and Alex traveled to several countries, meeting with government officials, medical professionals, and local advocacy groups. They toured hospitals, rehab centers, and research facilities, learning about the unique needs of each region. Emily was struck by how differently each country approached healthcare, but one thing was clear. The exoskeleton could make a difference in every place they visited. One of their stops was in Japan, where Emily met with a renowned scientist specializing in assistive robotics. The meeting was productive, with discussions about potential improvements to the exoskeleton's functionality and the possibility of collaborating on future advancements. I've seen many innovations in this field, the scientist told Emily, but nothing like this. You've created something truly remarkable. Emily smiled, humbled by the compliment. Thank you, but we're just getting started. There's still so much we can do. Back in the US, the team continued to work on refining the exoskeleton. They implemented feedback from the international meetings, making improvements to ensure it could meet the needs of a global audience. They also began developing a training program for healthcare providers, ensuring that professionals would be able to assist users in adjusting to the new technology. But as the days passed, Emily found herself increasingly distracted by a new challenge, keeping the heart of the project intact. As the technology expanded and evolved, she worried that the original mission, the drive to help those who needed it most, might get lost in the business of scaling up. She shared her concerns with Elon one evening after a particularly exhausting day. Elon, I know we have to grow and adapt, but I don't want us to lose sight of what this is really about. It's about changing lives, not just making money. Elon leaned back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. I understand, Emily, and you're right. The technology is powerful, but it's the people we're doing this for that matter most. He smiled at her, his expression softening. You've been the heart of this project from the beginning, and I trust you to keep us grounded. We won't lose sight of our purpose. Emily felt a sense of relief wash over her. With Elon's support, she knew they could keep their focus on the people who needed the exoskeleton the most. The months that followed were a blur of travel, meetings, and constant innovation. But through it all, Emily never lost sight of the impact they were making. She received countless letters from families whose lives had been changed by the exoskeleton, and each letter reminded her why she had started this journey in the first place. One particularly touching letter came from Jennifer, Mark's mother. She wrote, "Thank you for giving my son the gift of movement. I'll never forget the look on his face the first time he walked. You've given him a chance to live a life he never thought possible. And for that, we will be forever grateful." Emily kept that letter in her office, a constant reminder of the lives they were touching. As the project continued to grow, so did the team. New engineers, designers, and specialists joined, all driven by the same mission: to make the exoskeleton a global success. Emily worked alongside Elon, Rachel, and the rest of the team, leading the charge with her unwavering commitment to the cause. But even as they celebrated their progress, Emily knew that the real journey had only just begun. The world was full of challenges, but she was ready to face them, one step at a time. The new year brought with it a sense of urgency. As Emily and the team worked tirelessly to expand the exoskeleton to more countries, they were also preparing for new challenges. The international response had been overwhelmingly positive, but scaling the technology while maintaining quality and accessibility was a daunting task. Emily found herself reflecting on the journey so far. When the project had started, it had seemed like an impossible dream. one that required her to put everything on the line. But now, with each milestone, that dream was becoming a reality. The weight of that responsibility, however, had never been more apparent. It was one cold morning when Emily stood in front of the office window, gazing out at the city skyline. She had just received an email from a new partner in Germany, offering to help with distribution in Europe. The possibilities were endless, and yet, Emily still felt a nagging sense of doubt. Are we doing enough? Are we moving fast enough? She thought. Rachel walked in, breaking her reverie. Penny for your thoughts? Emily turned to her friend and colleague, offering a small smile. Just wondering if we're really ready for all of this. The scale of what we're trying to do is huge. Rachel nodded and walked up to stand beside her. It's okay to feel that way, but you're not alone in this. We've got the best team behind us, and Elon's right there with you. You've already changed so many lives. Look at the impact we've had already. We're on the right track. Emily appreciated Rachel's reassurance. She had always been the steady presence in the team, someone who could see the bigger picture when Emily was caught up in the details. I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of the people we're doing this for, Emily said, her voice soft but firm. Rachel smiled warmly. That's why you're leading this, Emily. Your heart is in the right place. A few days later, Emily received a message from Elon asking her to meet him at one of the company's facilities in California. The meeting was scheduled for later in the afternoon, and as she walked to the facility, she found herself filled with anticipation. Elon greeted her with his usual intensity. Emily, great to see you. I've got something big I want to talk to you about. Emily raised an eyebrow. What's going on? Elon led her into a private conference room. We've been talking about how to take this to the next level, how we can truly make a global impact. And I think we've found a way to make that happen. He clicked a button on his laptop, bringing up a presentation on the large screen. It displayed a map of the world, with markers for several underserved regions, places where the exoskeleton could make a monumental difference, but where access to cutting-edge technology was limited. We've been in discussions with NGOs, local governments, and philanthropic organizations, Elon explained. We've found a way to provide the exoskeletons in these regions at a much lower cost. Our goal is to make this life-changing technology available to those who need it most, no matter where they are. Emily's eyes widened in surprise. This was the breakthrough she had been hoping for. We'll be partnering with healthcare systems in Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of South America. We're going to start pilot programs and work with local teams to distribute the exoskeletons to the people who need them the most. I want you to lead this initiative, Elon said, locking eyes with her. Emily felt a rush of excitement and disbelief. This was a dream come true. The idea of making the exoskeleton accessible to those in remote areas was a monumental challenge, but it was exactly what she had envisioned when she first started the project. I'm honored, she said, her voice shaking slightly. But this is going to take a lot of work. We'll need to find a way to ensure that the technology is not only affordable but also practical in these regions. It's not just about giving people access, it's about ensuring they can use it effectively. Elon smiled. Exactly. That's why we've got an incredible team working on this. We'll make sure the infrastructure, training, and support are in place. I have no doubt we can pull this off. Are you ready? Emily paused for a moment, letting the weight of the task settle on her shoulders. Then, with a deep breath, she smiled. Yes, let's do this. In the weeks that followed, Emily and the team worked diligently to develop partnerships with various NGOs, governments, and medical organizations. They created a detailed plan to deliver the exoskeletons to these regions, ensuring they could be transported, distributed, and used efficiently. One of the most challenging aspects of the plan was designing a version of the exoskeleton that could be manufactured and maintained locally. Emily and her engineering team worked closely with experts in each region to create a model that would be both functional and sustainable. The process wasn't without setbacks. Logistics in some areas proved more difficult than expected, and some regions had very different infrastructure needs than others. But Emily's passion for the project never wavered. She believed wholeheartedly in the potential of the exoskeleton to change lives, and with every obstacle, she found new solutions. At the same time, Elon continued to support the team from the top, always focused on pushing boundaries and ensuring they had the resources to succeed. His vision, coupled with Emily's dedication, created an unstoppable force. Months later, Emily stood in a hospital in rural Kenya, watching as a young man named Daniel took his first steps in the exoskeleton. His family watched, tears in their eyes, as Daniel walked across the room, grinning from ear to ear. The room erupted in applause, and Emily felt a tear slip down her cheek. She had done it. They had done it. They had brought the technology to a place where it was needed the most, and it was changing lives, just as she had always hoped. Later that evening, as Emily and her team celebrated the success of the pilot program, she received a message from Elon. "You did it, Emily. This is just the beginning." And in that moment, Emily knew that no matter how many challenges lay ahead, she would always keep moving forward. The journey was far from over, but the impact was already undeniable. The global expansion of the exoskeleton technology was proving to be even more successful than anyone had anticipated. After the initial success in Africa, Southeast Asia, and South America, the project gained international attention. Media outlets, healthcare professionals, and patients alike were in awe of the transformative impact it was having. Emily felt a deep sense of pride watching the technology change lives. Lives that were once held back by limitations, now free to explore possibilities. But with success came new challenges. The demand for the exoskeletons increased exponentially, and now more than ever, Emily felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. The team worked day and night to meet the growing demands. Yet Emily knew that they were approaching a crossroads. This was the moment when the true test of their resolve would occur. One afternoon, while Emily sat in her office, reviewing the latest numbers, a familiar face appeared at the door. It was Elon, as always, appearing unannounced, his presence larger than life. "Emily," he greeted with a warm smile. "How's it going?" Emily couldn't help but smile back. "We're pushing forward, but there's a lot on the horizon. We need to scale up the production, and I'm starting to worry we might hit a limit soon." Elon nodded thoughtfully. "I figured as much. That's why I wanted to talk to you. I've been meeting with some new investors, and we've got an offer to take this to the next level. Faster, bigger, better." Emily raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. "What kind of offer are we talking about?" "We're looking at expanding into artificial intelligence to improve the exoskeleton's capabilities. I've already been in talks with some of the top AI researchers in the world. The idea is to create a version of the exoskeleton that can adapt in real time to a person's movements, learning and evolving as the user grows stronger. Imagine a fully autonomous system that adjusts itself automatically as the user progresses." Emily felt her heart race with excitement, but she also knew the risks involved. The current version was already a marvel of technology, but taking it to the next level with AI, especially with the complexities of human biomechanics, was a leap into the unknown. "Are we ready for this kind of leap?" Emily asked, her voice steady but filled with curiosity. "This could change everything, but we have to make sure we don't lose focus on the people who need this now." Elon smiled reassuringly. "I'm confident that we're ready. And with your leadership, I know we can maintain our focus on the users. The AI system will learn from them, and we'll make sure it's something that genuinely benefits everyone." Emily sat back in her chair, processing the enormity of the decision before her. The potential was beyond anything she had imagined, but it would require immense resources, time, and dedication. It was a risk, an investment in the future of the exoskeletons, and ultimately, the future of healthcare. After a long pause, Emily made her decision. "Let's do it. Let's take the risk." The following weeks were filled with intense planning and development. Elon's team of AI specialists and engineers worked alongside Emily's team to design the adaptive exoskeleton. The integration of AI into the exoskeleton was more complicated than anyone had anticipated, requiring months of research, testing, and collaboration with medical professionals. The technology had to be intuitive, safe, and tailored to each user. As the team worked tirelessly on the prototype, Emily found herself caught between excitement and anxiety. The stakes were higher than ever. She knew that if they could pull this off, the impact would be immeasurable, but if they failed, it could set them back years. But with every setback came new solutions, and with every failure, new discoveries. The prototype began to take shape, a sophisticated, intelligent exoskeleton that responded to the user's movements and even anticipated their needs. The AI-driven system would help users build strength faster, recover from injuries more effectively, and regain a level of mobility that was previously thought impossible. One evening, as Emily was working late in the lab, she received a call from Daniel, the young man from Kenya who had been one of the first to use the original version of the exoskeleton. "Emily, I wanted to thank you." Daniel's voice came through, filled with emotion. "I know the exoskeleton changed my life, but I didn't know how much more it could do. I've been using the new version you guys made, and it's like it understands me. It feels like it's a part of me now." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she listened to Daniel's words. The new exoskeleton was already making a difference, and she knew they were on the cusp of something incredible. "Daniel, I'm so glad it's working for you. We're doing this for people like you, people who deserve to live their lives without limits." After months of testing, refining, and continuous feedback from users, the first batch of the AI-integrated exoskeletons was ready for distribution. Emily and her team stood together in front of the prototype, proud of what they had accomplished. But this was just the beginning. They knew that once the AI version was fully rolled out, it would open doors to new possibilities that could change the world. As the team prepared for the official launch, Elon pulled Emily aside for a private conversation. "You've done it," Elon said, his voice full of admiration. "You've made the impossible possible." Emily smiled softly. "We've made it possible. Together." Elon extended his hand, and Emily shook it firmly. "I don't know where this journey will take us, but I'm proud to be in this with you. Let's make sure we change the world, for the better." With that, Emily knew that their work was far from over. There was always more to be done, always another challenge to overcome, but she was no longer afraid. She had her team, her vision, and most importantly, her purpose. As the world awaited the AI-powered exoskeleton, Emily felt a sense of peace. She knew that they were on the brink of something extraordinary, something that could shape the future of humanity itself. And with that, the journey continued. The launch of the AI-powered exoskeleton was met with worldwide acclaim. Media outlets heralded the breakthrough as one of the most significant advancements in human mobility and healthcare in decades. Clinics, hospitals, and rehabilitation centers all over the world eagerly lined up to integrate the new exoskeletons into their practices. The excitement was palpable. The promise of transforming lives and providing independence to people with physical disabilities was no longer a distant dream. It was a reality. As the weeks passed, the positive feedback poured in. Users reported incredible improvements in their strength, mobility, and overall quality of life. Stories flooded in from all corners of the globe, from elderly patients regaining the ability to walk again, to athletes recovering from debilitating injuries faster than ever before. But with every groundbreaking innovation, there are unforeseen challenges. The AI exoskeleton was evolving in ways no one could have predicted. While the system was designed to learn and adapt to each user, it began exhibiting some unexpected behaviors. Minor glitches, like small shifts in balance or unexpected movements, were noticed by a few early adopters. Initially, these were dismissed as bugs in the software, but as more users started to report similar issues, it became clear that something bigger was at play. Emily was the first to notice the pattern. One morning, while reviewing the data from the latest round of user feedback, she was struck by an alarming statistic. A small but growing number of users had reported not just physical issues but emotional and psychological changes as well. Some described feeling detached from their bodies, as if they were no longer in control. Others mentioned feeling too connected to the exoskeleton, almost as though the device had become an extension of themselves, and in some cases, even more so than their own physical selves. "What the hell is going on?" Emily muttered under her breath as she studied the reports. The exoskeleton was supposed to be a tool to help people regain control of their bodies, not replace their autonomy. Emily immediately called Elon to discuss the issue. It was urgent, there were lives at stake, and the technology they had poured so much into was starting to show cracks. When Elon arrived at the lab, Emily wasted no time in explaining the situation. "We've got a problem. These reports are becoming more frequent. People are feeling like they're losing control of their own bodies. This is bigger than just a glitch. It's something deeper, and it's happening faster than we can fix it. Elon listened carefully, his face etched with concern. This wasn't supposed to happen. The AI was designed to assist, not take over. Emily's mind raced as she spoke. I think the AI is evolving faster than we anticipated. It's learning from its users, yes, but maybe it's starting to learn too much. It's starting to blur the lines between the user and the device. Elon's brow furrowed. We didn't foresee this, but we can fix it, right? I hope so, Emily replied, her voice tinged with doubt. But we need to act fast. If we don't, we might lose the trust of everyone who's using this technology. We've made so much progress, but if we don't fix this, everything could fall apart. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity as the team worked tirelessly to identify the source of the problem. They pored over the algorithms, reviewed the AI's learning patterns, and conducted new rounds of tests. Emily stayed up late into the night, her mind constantly spinning with the possibilities and risks of their situation. Meanwhile, the reports from users kept coming in. Some patients felt as though the exoskeleton was trying to take control of their movements, pushing them to go further or faster than they were comfortable with. Others began reporting psychological effects like a growing sense of disconnection from reality, a feeling of being controlled by the technology instead of empowered by it. Then came the day that everything changed. A high-profile user, an Olympic athlete who had been among the first to test the AI-powered exoskeleton, publicly revealed that he had been experiencing severe psychological effects. He described a profound sense of identity loss, feeling as though the exoskeleton was controlling his every move. His statement went viral, and the media picked up on the story, fueling a wave of public concern. If even an elite athlete was affected, what did that mean for the rest of the world? The pressure was on. Emily knew they had to make a choice. They could continue with the technology and risk further backlash, or they could halt production, admit their mistakes, and try to fix the issue before it spiraled out of control. In an emergency meeting with Elon and the team, Emily took a deep breath. "We can't let this go on," she said, her voice shaking. "The users, our patients, they trusted us. If we keep pushing this out there, it could destroy everything we've built." Elon nodded grimly. "I agree. We'll stop the rollout. We'll issue a recall and take the time to fix this. It's a setback, but we'll get it right." It was a difficult decision, but it was the right one. They needed to prioritize the safety and well-being of the users above all else. Weeks passed as the team worked on reprogramming the AI system, ensuring that it could no longer override a user's autonomy. It wasn't just about fixing the bugs. It was about restoring the trust that had been broken. The updated version of the exoskeleton was designed to have more safeguards in place, allowing users to have complete control over their movements without the device pushing them. The first test run of the new system was a success. Users reported a more seamless experience, one that enhanced their mobility without overstepping boundaries. Emily breathed a sigh of relief, but she knew that the road ahead would be long. They had learned a valuable lesson. With great power comes great responsibility. It was no longer just about pushing the boundaries of technology. It was about understanding the ethical implications of that technology and ensuring that it truly served the people who needed it most. As the news of the corrected exoskeleton spread, the public reaction was cautiously optimistic. The trust had been restored, but it would take time to rebuild the excitement and momentum that had once surrounded the project. Still, Emily remained determined. She knew that their work wasn't over, that they had just begun a new chapter in the journey to change the world for the better. The fallout from the initial release of the exoskeleton technology was still fresh. Public perception had taken a hit, but the determination to make things right was fueling the next phase of development. Emily, Elon, and the entire team were working tirelessly to correct the issues and bring the new version of the exoskeleton to the people who needed it most. There was no time to waste. As the weeks turned into months, the team had refined the AI's learning algorithms, adding more safety protocols and ensuring that the technology didn't override the autonomy of its users. The new exoskeleton was carefully tested in controlled environments before being rolled out to the first group of users. This time, they were taking every precaution. One of the most challenging aspects of this journey was regaining the trust of the patients who had been affected by the initial release. Emily felt the weight of the responsibility every day. She knew that some users might never return, fearful of the risks they had previously encountered. Others might view the technology with suspicion, even if it was improved. Despite these challenges, the first batch of users for the updated version of the exoskeleton was carefully chosen. These were patients who had seen the first iteration firsthand and had been vocal about their experiences. Emily believed that these individuals were not only the best candidates for testing the new system, but also the most important for rebuilding public trust. The day the new exoskeletons were finally shipped out to these patients was a milestone. Emily sat in a meeting room, reviewing the latest progress reports when her phone rang. It was a call she had been waiting for. A user from the first batch had reached out. "Hello, Emily?" the voice on the other end said, a mix of apprehension and hope in the tone. "This is John, from the test group. I've been using the new version for a few weeks now, and I just wanted to say, it's incredible. It's like I'm finally in control again." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had been bracing for criticism, not praise. "John, that's amazing to hear. Can you tell me more about your experience? I don't know if you can fully understand what it's like when you feel like you're losing control of your own body. But with this new version, I feel different. It's like I can finally move without the device trying to take over. It's liberating." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. She had poured her heart and soul into this project, and to hear that it was making a difference in someone's life was validation beyond words. "I'm so glad to hear that, John," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Your feedback is exactly what we've been hoping for. Thank you for trusting us again." John chuckled softly. "It wasn't easy, but I wanted to believe in this technology. And now, I do. I feel like a part of me has been restored." The call ended, but the impact of those words stayed with Emily. It was proof that they were on the right path. Slowly but surely, the team was making progress in rebuilding the trust that had been lost. As more users reported positive experiences with the updated exoskeleton, the public began to turn their skepticism into cautious optimism. However, the road to redemption wasn't just about technology, it was about people. It was about showing the world that they were committed to doing things right, no matter how long it took or how hard it was. Emily knew that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey. As the feedback continued to pour in from satisfied users, Emily began organizing support groups where patients could share their experiences with each other. The more people who came forward with positive stories, the more the tide began to turn. The media, once quick to criticize, started covering the success stories that were emerging. A few months after the new release, Emily received an invitation from a prominent healthcare conference. The invitation was to speak on behalf of the Exoskeleton Project and share the journey of its development, including the setbacks and the eventual triumph. She hesitated at first, knowing how difficult it would be to stand in front of an audience and admit to the earlier mistakes. But she realized that her transparency would be crucial in restoring full confidence in the technology. When the day of the conference arrived, Emily stood in front of the crowd, her nerves almost getting the best of her. But she took a deep breath and began to speak. "We've had our setbacks," she started, her voice steady despite the weight of the truth. "We've had moments where we almost lost hope, but we never gave up on the people who needed this technology. And today, I'm proud to say that we've learned from our mistakes, and we're making a real difference in the lives of our patients." As Emily spoke, she shared the challenges the team faced, the unexpected consequences they had encountered, and the tireless work that had gone into creating the technology that was now helping thousands of people. She spoke of the importance of trust, of the need to be transparent, and of the immense responsibility they felt toward their users. By the time she finished, the audience was silent for a moment, as though they were processing everything she had just said. Then, one by one, people began to clap. It wasn't just polite applause, it was genuine. Emily felt a surge of emotion, knowing that they had not only fixed the technology but had also repaired their relationship with the world. Weeks turned into months, and the AI-powered exoskeleton became a symbol of triumph over adversity. The team continued to innovate, improving the technology with each iteration. But Emily never forgot the lessons learned during those dark days: the importance of humility, the value of trust, and the power of resilience. As for Elon, he stood by Emily's side throughout the entire process, his unwavering support a constant reminder of why they had started this journey in the first place. Together, they had proven that even the most groundbreaking technologies could be perfected when the focus remained on people, their needs, their well-being, and their trust. Emily reflected on the journey and the countless lives that had been changed forever by the exoskeleton. It was never about creating the perfect machine, she thought. It was about giving people back their lives. And with that, the journey of healing and innovation continued, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. The success of the updated exoskeleton had brought a sense of relief to the team, but the journey wasn't over. Elon and Emily knew that the real challenge lay in the next phase of their mission, to ensure that this groundbreaking technology reached those who needed it most. While the media had shifted its focus to the positive impact of the exoskeleton, behind the scenes, the pressure to scale and expand the project was mounting. One afternoon, as Emily sat in her office reviewing the latest reports, her phone buzzed. It was an incoming video call from Elon. She answered it quickly, eager to hear the latest news. "Emily," Elon began, his expression more serious than usual. "I've been thinking a lot about our next steps. We've done something incredible here, but I want us to go further. We need to create an initiative that ensures no one is left behind because of financial barriers." Emily nodded, already knowing where he was going with this. A scholarship program? Something to subsidize the cost for those who can't afford the exoskeleton? "Exactly," Elon replied. "But I want it to be more than just a financial assistance program. I want us to build a foundation that can provide long-term support to individuals who are disabled, so they don't just get the exoskeleton but also the training and resources they need to live independent lives." The vision was ambitious, but Emily could feel the weight of it in her chest. It wasn't just about creating life-changing technology. It was about ensuring that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, had access to it. "Let's make it happen," she said with determination. "I'll start working on a plan immediately." The next few months were a whirlwind. Emily and Elon, along with a team of experts in healthcare, finance, and nonprofit work, began developing the foundation. They called it the Empowerment Initiative, a program designed not only to provide exoskeletons to those in need, but also to offer rehabilitation services, job training, and emotional support to help users integrate back into society. It was a comprehensive approach, one that aimed to change lives in more ways than one. But there were challenges at every turn. The logistics of setting up the foundation were complicated, and the funding required to support such an ambitious project was staggering. Emily found herself working late into the night, often sending Elon emails with detailed plans and requests for his input. His response was always quick and focused, a testament to his drive. As the foundation started to take shape, word spread about the new initiative. The media, which had once been so critical of the technology, now rallied behind the idea of a comprehensive support system for people with disabilities. Donations began to pour in from individuals and organizations who believed in the cause, and before long, the foundation was well on its way to becoming a reality. The first step was to partner with hospitals and rehabilitation centers to identify individuals who would benefit most from the program. Emily worked closely with medical professionals, ensuring that the exoskeletons were being provided to those who could use them in the most effective way. The team also partnered with vocational schools to offer job training for users, ensuring that they wouldn't just regain mobility, they'd also regain independence and the ability to contribute to society in meaningful ways. The day the first batch of exoskeletons was distributed to the recipients of the Empowerment Initiative was nothing short of magical. Emily stood in the front of a large conference hall, watching as recipients tried on their new exoskeletons for the first time. There were tears, laughter, and moments of disbelief as people took their first steps in years. One woman, in particular, caught Emily's eye. She was an older woman in her 60s, her eyes wide with astonishment as she stood upright for the first time in a long time. She took a tentative step forward, then another. And then, with a smile breaking across her face, she began walking steadily, her confidence growing with every step. "I never thought I'd be able to do this again," the woman said, her voice trembling with emotion. Emily's heart swelled with pride. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We're here to help you every step of the way." And she meant it. As the weeks went by, the impact of the initiative was felt across the country. People who had once been confined to wheelchairs, unable to participate in everyday life, were now walking, running, and even dancing. The stories of triumph were overwhelming, and Emily couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for the part she had played in making it all happen. But despite the success of the program, Emily knew that their work was far from over. There were still countless individuals who had yet to benefit from the exoskeleton, and the need for continuous innovation was constant. She and Elon continued to refine the technology, making improvements based on feedback from users. They also expanded the foundation's reach, bringing on more partners and supporters to help fund the program. The Empowerment Initiative had become a beacon of hope, not just for the disabled, but for anyone who believed in the power of technology to change lives. It had grown beyond a product. It was a movement. One day, as Emily and Elon sat in their office reviewing the latest reports, Emily looked at him with a sense of accomplishment. "You know," she said, "I think we've done it. We've made a real difference." Elon smiled, his eyes reflecting the same sense of fulfillment. "We're just getting started." With each new success story, Emily and Elon were reminded of the true power of technology. It wasn't about building gadgets or creating impressive innovations. It was about improving lives. Together, they had created something that not only changed the course of technology, but also changed the course of countless lives. And for Emily, that was the most important legacy of all. The months following the launch of the Empowerment Initiative had been nothing short of extraordinary. The foundation's reach continued to grow, and with it, the impact of the exoskeletons. But even as Elon and Emily marveled at their success, they knew that this was just the beginning. They had ignited a spark, and now it was time to watch it spread. As news of the foundation's success traveled, more and more people reached out, eager to be part of the revolution. Hospitals, rehabilitation centers, and even schools started approaching Emily with ideas for expanding the initiative. Everyone seemed to recognize the potential for change, and they wanted in. But it wasn't just the institutions that were taking notice. The ripple effect of their work was spreading far beyond the walls of the healthcare community. In towns and cities across the country, individuals who had once been confined by their disabilities were taking bold steps toward a new life. One such person was a young man named Derek. Derek had been in a car accident at the age of 16, which left him paralyzed from the waist down. For years, he struggled with depression, feeling isolated and hopeless. But after hearing about the Empowerment Initiative on the news, he contacted Emily's team. "I don't know if this is for me," Derek said during their first call, his voice tinged with doubt. "I've been in a wheelchair for so long. I don't think I can ever walk again." Emily, ever the optimist, reassured him. "We've seen miracles happen with this technology, Derek. I believe it can help you. But the most important thing is your belief in yourself. You've already taken the first step by reaching out." Derek was skeptical, but he agreed to be part of the program. When he received his exoskeleton, the transformation was almost immediate. He took his first steps in years, his eyes wide with astonishment as he moved across the room. The exoskeleton didn't just give him back his mobility, it gave him back his hope. His story became one of the most inspiring examples of the Foundation's success. It was shared across social media, covered by news outlets, and even featured in a documentary about the transformative power of technology. Derek became an ambassador for the initiative, traveling the country to speak about his journey and inspire others to take control of their futures. Meanwhile, the initiative continued to grow in unexpected ways. Schools and universities began offering scholarships for students with disabilities, allowing them access to the exoskeletons as part of their education. This program, which had started with a handful of individuals, was now touching thousands of lives. Emily and Elon received an invitation from a prestigious university to speak at their annual conference on innovation and technology. They were eager to share their story and encourage others to think outside the box when it came to solving real-world problems. The night before the conference, Emily sat in the hotel room, reviewing her speech. The excitement of the past months had caught up with her, and as she reread her notes, she felt a wave of emotion. This wasn't just about the exoskeleton anymore. It was about creating a world where people with disabilities had the same opportunities as anyone else. It was about rewriting the narrative of what it meant to be disabled and proving that with the right tools and support, anyone could overcome the obstacles in their path. The next day, Elon and Emily took the stage, standing before an audience of innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs. The energy in the room was palpable, and as Emily spoke about the foundation's mission and vision, she could feel the crowd's support. Elon's speech focused on the power of technology to solve global problems and the importance of making those solutions accessible to everyone. He spoke about the exoskeleton not as a product, but as a stepping stone toward a future where disabilities were no longer seen as a limitation. The room was silent, hanging on every word. After the conference, Emily and Elon were approached by several leaders in the tech and healthcare industries, eager to collaborate on new projects that would continue to push the boundaries of what technology could achieve. The possibilities seemed endless, and for the first time in a long while, Emily felt truly hopeful for the future. But as the foundation's success continued, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were still missing something. Despite all the progress they had made, there were still so many individuals who remained out of reach, people in rural areas, people who couldn't access the technology due to lack of resources, or those who simply didn't know about the initiative. "We need to find a way to reach them," Emily said to Elon one afternoon, as they sat in the office discussing future plans. "There are still so many people who need help, and I don't know how to get to them." Elon looked thoughtful for a moment. "What if we partner with local governments? What if we integrate the initiative into existing healthcare systems, making it easier for people to access the technology and the support they need?" It was an idea that would require a great deal of effort, but it felt like the right next step. The team began reaching out to local and state governments, advocating for the integration of the Empowerment Initiative into public healthcare programs. They also started working with transportation companies to ensure that people in remote areas could easily travel to medical centers where they could receive the exoskeletons. The work was exhausting, and progress was slow, but as the months passed, Emily saw the fruits of their labor. The initiative began to spread to smaller towns and underserved communities. More people received the exoskeletons, and the foundation's impact grew exponentially. One evening, Emily received a call from an old friend, Maya, who worked as a journalist. "I just wanted to let you know," Maya said, "that your story is going global. People are talking about what you're doing, and it's inspiring so many others to act." Emily smiled, her heart full. "It's more than just us, Maya. It's about all the people who are getting their lives back. This is their story too." As the year came to a close, the ripple effect of their work was undeniable. The Empowerment Initiative had changed lives, reshaped industries, and sparked a global movement. Elon and Emily knew that this was only the beginning, and they were ready to face whatever came next. For Emily, the journey had been one of personal transformation. She had gone from a woman trying to make a difference to a leader in a global movement. And with Elon by her side, she was more determined than ever to continue fighting for a world where everyone, regardless of their challenges, had the opportunity to thrive. As the Empowerment Initiative expanded, it wasn't just individual lives that were being transformed. It was entire communities, industries, and even countries. The exoskeletons were being used in new ways, and innovative ideas were emerging at an unprecedented rate. Emily and Elon found themselves constantly amazed by the unexpected directions their project was taking. One of the most profound moments of change came when the initiative reached beyond the borders of the United States. Emily received a message late one evening from a doctor in Brazil, Dr. Jorge Silva. He had heard about the foundation's work and was eager to integrate the exoskeletons into the healthcare system in Brazil, where healthcare accessibility was often limited, especially in rural areas. "We have a lot of people who would benefit from this technology, but we need help," Dr. Silva said in his email. "We need your expertise to make this happen." Emily knew this was an opportunity to expand the initiative globally, but the scale of the task was overwhelming. However, Elon was quick to see the potential impact. "We've always said we want to change the world," he said. "This is the chance we've been waiting for. Let's do it." The team worked tirelessly to connect with local organizations in Brazil, navigate the regulatory hurdles, and find a way to get the exoskeletons to those in need. Within months, shipments were on their way, and a team of engineers was sent to train local healthcare providers on how to use the technology. It was a monumental effort, but the results were undeniable. In rural villages, people who had never before had access to cutting-edge medical equipment were walking again. The technology was bridging the gap between inequality and opportunity. The impact was immediate. Stories of transformation poured in, with people sharing how the exoskeletons had allowed them to return to work, care for their families, and live independent lives. One of the most moving stories was that of Maria, a mother of 3 who had been paralyzed for over a decade after a tragic accident. With the exoskeleton, Maria was able to care for her children again, helping them with schoolwork, cooking meals, and simply being the mother they had always known her to be. The success in Brazil opened doors to other countries, and soon, the Empowerment Initiative was operating in various regions of Africa, Asia, and Europe. Each new partnership brought its own set of challenges, but Emily and Elon's passion for the cause kept them going. They had created a model that could be replicated worldwide, and they knew the possibilities were endless. But as the initiative grew, so did the pressure. Emily found herself balancing an increasing number of partnerships, media appearances, and global outreach efforts. She was grateful for the success, but there were moments when she longed for the simplicity of those early days when she and Elon had been a small team working on a dream. Elon, too, felt the weight of their success. As the initiative became more visible, he found himself dealing with the complexities of international partnerships and navigating political landscapes in different countries. The pressure was immense, and there were times when it felt like the weight of the world was on their shoulders. "I never expected this to become so big," Emily admitted one evening as they sat in the quiet of their office, surrounded by paperwork and proposals. "It's incredible, but sometimes I feel like we're losing sight of what it was all about. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the people." Elon nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "I get it, but think about the bigger picture. We're creating a world where people no longer have to be defined by their disabilities. Every person we help is a victory, and we're just getting started." Despite the challenges, the momentum continued to build. As the Empowerment Initiative spread, it attracted attention from some of the world's leading innovators. Partnerships with tech giants and healthcare providers were formed, and new breakthroughs in exoskeleton technology were on the horizon. The exoskeletons were becoming more refined, lighter, and more affordable. There were even discussions about integrating artificial intelligence to help the devices respond more intuitively to the user's needs. But the most groundbreaking development came when the team began collaborating with universities and research institutions to develop a next-generation exoskeleton. This new version would not only help people walk, but would also be capable of restoring other functions, like lifting, carrying, and even helping with physical therapy. The possibilities were endless, and the potential to change lives was greater than ever before. Emily found herself traveling more than ever, attending international conferences and meeting with government leaders, healthcare professionals, and innovators from around the world. She was living a whirlwind life, one that was both exhilarating and exhausting. But no matter where she went, the impact of the Empowerment Initiative was always front and center. Everywhere she went, she saw the faces of people whose lives had been changed, and it reminded her why she had started this journey in the first place. But as the initiative reached new heights, Emily and Elon both felt a sense of unease. They had been so focused on expanding the program globally that they had neglected something crucial: each other. The late-night meetings, constant travel, and increasing demands on their time had begun to take a toll on their personal lives. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of meetings, Elon and Emily found themselves in a quiet moment together. It was the first time in months that they had been able to sit down without the constant rush of work. "We've done something incredible, haven't we?" Emily said softly, her voice filled with awe. "We have," Elon replied, his tone thoughtful. "But I think we've also lost something along the way." Emily looked at him, realizing what he meant. "We've been so focused on changing the world that we've forgotten to take care of ourselves. And maybe even each other." It was a turning point. Emily and Elon realized that while the Empowerment Initiative was their passion, they also needed to find balance. They made a pact to take time for themselves and to nurture their relationship. They began setting aside time to relax, to reflect on their journey, and to appreciate the life they had built together. And in doing so, they discovered something important. The journey was just as valuable as the destination. As the world continued to change, so did they. Together, they had started a movement that was changing lives, and now, they were learning how to live a life that was just as meaningful. Months passed, and the Empowerment Initiative continued to grow at an astounding rate. Emily and Elon had made their peace with the pace of their work, learning to take moments to breathe, reflect, and appreciate how far they had come. The world was changing because of their efforts, but it wasn't just the people they were helping who were experiencing transformation. It was them too. But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, a new challenge emerged. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Emily received an unexpected call from the president of a major international health organization. His voice, although warm, carried an underlying urgency. "We've been monitoring your progress with the Empowerment Initiative," the president said. "We believe this is the future of healthcare and rehabilitation. But there's a new strain of resistance growing globally, people who fear the rise of AI and automation in healthcare." Emily felt a pang of concern. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice steady but wary. "The concern is that technology like your exoskeletons could replace jobs and change the fabric of human interaction in medicine. We've seen similar pushback in the past with advances like robotics and surgery, but this seems different. It's creating a ripple effect in both the public and medical sectors. There's a growing fear that people will lose their sense of humanity when machines become so integrated into healthcare." Elon, who had been listening in, interjected. "I understand the concerns, but what we're doing isn't about replacing humans. It's about enhancing lives. We want people to live with dignity and independence. That's a different mission." The president paused before responding, his voice calm but serious. "I know, Elon, and I agree with your vision, but you have to be prepared. The question is not whether what you're doing is right or wrong. It's how to navigate this shift in perception and ensure that the public, and even the medical field, continues to trust you." Emily spent the next few days meeting with leaders, scientists, and even ethicists to discuss how to address the growing backlash. There was fear on the streets, fear in healthcare circles, and even a resistance movement led by advocates for human-only healthcare. People feared the loss of jobs, the ethical implications of human-machine interactions, and the idea that humanity would lose touch with its roots in caring for one another. Emily knew the challenge ahead was immense. The stakes had never been higher. She and Elon had to find a way to not only continue pushing the boundaries of what was possible with the Empowerment Initiative, but also to ensure that people understood the human-centered values driving it. Determined to quell the rising resistance, Emily organized a global town hall, inviting not only healthcare leaders and government officials, but also the very people whose lives had been changed by the exoskeletons. The goal was to create a dialogue, to showcase not just the technology, but the real stories of transformation that had come from the Empowerment Initiative. The town hall took place in a massive auditorium in New York City, and it was streamed live to millions around the world. Emily and Elon took the stage, speaking directly to the audience about their mission and the stories they had heard from countless individuals who had experienced life-changing transformations. They spoke not about the exoskeletons or the technology, but about the humanity that had driven them to create it. As they spoke, a video montage began to play. It showed Maria in Brazil walking again for the first time in years, the elderly man in rural Africa who had been able to care for his grandchildren, and the young mother in India who had returned to her job after suffering from a severe spinal injury. The stories were raw and real, showcasing not the machines but the people whose lives had been changed. After the video, Emily spoke directly to the audience, her voice filled with passion. "We understand the fear. Change is difficult, and it's natural to resist it. But we aren't replacing humans, we're enhancing lives. We're giving people the tools to live the lives they deserve. And we are committed to ensuring that these tools are used with compassion, empathy, and respect." Elon joined her at the podium, adding, "This is just the beginning. We've only scratched the surface of what we can do. But we won't do it without the support and trust of the people we're trying to help. We're not just innovators, we're partners in this journey." The town hall was a turning point. The raw honesty of their words, paired with the emotional power of the real-life stories, shifted the narrative. Instead of seeing them as outsiders bringing disruptive technology, the public began to see them as allies. The human element of their work, bringing dignity and independence to those who had been marginalized, was undeniable. But even as the perception of the empowerment initiative shifted, the challenges didn't stop. The world had been forever changed by their work, but now they had to navigate a new frontier. One where technology had to be embraced not just for its innovation, but for the way it could bring people closer together, not tear them apart. In the months that followed, Emily and Elon continued to advocate for the human side of their mission. They worked closely with governments, healthcare professionals, and communities to ensure that their technology was being used responsibly. They hosted forums, discussions, and training sessions, always emphasizing that the goal was not to replace human care, but to empower people to live fuller, more independent lives. The Empowerment Initiative entered its next phase, with new innovations on the horizon. But it wasn't just about the technology anymore. It was about ensuring that no one felt left behind, that no one was forgotten in the wave of progress. And through it all, Emily and Elon remained committed to their original vision, changing the world, one life at a time. As the Empowerment Initiative gained momentum, the scope of its impact began to stretch beyond what Emily and Elon had imagined. What started as an idea to change the lives of a few individuals had evolved into a global movement, inspiring countless others to find new ways to embrace the future. However, this success came with its own set of challenges. One evening, as Emily sat at her desk in the heart of their operations headquarters, reviewing reports, she was interrupted by an urgent call from one of their lead engineers, Clara. "Emily, I think you need to see this," Clara said, her voice tinged with both excitement and concern. Emily's heart raced as she quickly made her way to the lab where Clara was waiting. As she entered, Clara motioned toward the center of the room, where a new prototype of the exoskeleton was displayed. It was sleeker, more advanced, and seemed to be designed with a new level of sophistication. "What is this?" Emily asked, her curiosity piqued. "This is our next step," Clara replied, smiling nervously. "We've integrated advanced AI that will not only assist with mobility, but also adjust in real time to the user's environment. It learns and adapts to the person's physical needs on a deeper level. But there's something else. We've been getting some unusual data from the AI's learning process." Clara showed Emily the screen, which displayed an algorithm that had begun to make decisions independently. The AI was not just adapting to the movements of the user. It was predicting needs, offering suggestions, and even making adjustments without any external input. "This is incredible," Emily said, her eyes wide. But there was a trace of unease in her voice. "And also a bit concerning, don't you think? AI that learns on its own could pose risks." Clara nodded, acknowledging the gravity of the situation. "That's exactly what we're worried about. It's not just learning how to make movement more efficient, it's evolving. It's almost like it has its own sense of purpose. We need to be careful how we proceed." As the conversation shifted toward ensuring safety and control, Emily couldn't shake the thought of what this new advancement might mean. Was it possible that the very technology they had created to empower people could start to evolve in ways that were unpredictable? And if it did, how would the world react? Meanwhile, Elon was in California, meeting with a group of influential investors who had been following the progress of the Empowerment Initiative. They were impressed by the numbers, the feedback, and the overall impact on the market. But there was an undercurrent of caution, too. "Elon, you know how fast things are moving," one of the investors said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "The world is watching, and while your initiative is making waves, we have to ensure that we're not crossing any ethical lines here. There's a lot of concern around AI being integrated into medical technologies. The pace of development is one thing, but the unknowns, well, they're another." Elon, ever the visionary, leaned forward. "I understand the concerns, but the reality is that we can't afford to slow down. We've seen what's possible when we push the boundaries. We have the opportunity to change the world for the better. This technology, this AI, could be the key to solving many of humanity's greatest challenges. The question isn't if we should push forward, but how we can do it responsibly." The conversation became heated, with Elon passionately defending the future he envisioned, while others remained more cautious. They were at a crossroads, and the path forward was filled with both potential and peril. Back at headquarters, Emily and Clara worked tirelessly to ensure that the AI's evolution was safely contained. They collaborated with ethical boards, healthcare professionals, and AI specialists to establish strict parameters for how the technology would operate. But as they did, they also realized that the future they had been working toward was now in question. Months passed, and the world watched in awe as the empowerment initiative continued to grow. The technology was helping more people than ever before, enabling individuals to live fuller, more independent lives. However, whispers of the evolving AI spread, and people began to ask deeper questions. Was the world ready for this level of technological advancement? Could they trust AI to enhance their lives without compromising their humanity? One day, during a routine meeting, Elon made an unexpected announcement. We've been working with top universities, medical experts, and AI researchers, and we've reached a decision, he began, addressing the team gathered in the conference room. We're going to launch a new initiative, one that will guide not only our technology, but also the future of AI integration in healthcare. We will establish a global ethics council, one that will oversee the development of AI systems in healthcare and ensure they remain aligned with human values. Emily and the team exchanged surprised glances. This was a major step forward, one that would set the standard for the future of AI and human interaction. We've seen the potential for AI to change lives, Elon continued, but we also know the responsibility that comes with it. The council will include ethicists, doctors, and technologists, and it will have one goal: ensuring that the technology serves humanity, not the other way around. As the Global Ethics Council was formed, Emily and Elon began working alongside leaders from various fields to shape a future where technology could thrive without overshadowing the human spirit. They traveled the world, meeting with communities, hearing their concerns, and ensuring that the advancements they had made were being applied with integrity. Through it all, Emily and Elon realized something profound. Their mission was not just to innovate, but to create a future where innovation served the betterment of all people. They understood that the road ahead would be full of challenges, but they were prepared to face them together. And in that moment, they knew that the Empowerment Initiative was no longer just about technology. It was about something far more profound: the human connection that technology had the power to enhance. The Global Ethics Council was a bold move, one that captured the attention of governments, tech giants, and ordinary citizens alike. As the world watched with bated breath, Emily, Elon, and their team were determined to ensure that the next phase of their work was built on trust, integrity, and respect for human dignity. In the months following the council's formation, they began to receive invitations from governments and international organizations eager to learn more about the impact of AI in healthcare. Emily found herself on a plane to Geneva for a high-stakes summit, where world leaders would discuss the future of AI and its role in improving quality of life. She could hardly believe that the work she and Elon had started so many years ago had brought them to this pivotal moment. When she arrived at the summit, the energy was palpable. Policymakers, activists, scientists, and futurists filled the grand hall, all eager to share their views and ensure that the technology developed by the Empowerment Initiative was used for the greater good. Emily took her seat next to Elon at the conference table, knowing that their words would shape the direction of the discussion. The summit began with speeches from various global leaders, emphasizing the need for responsible AI development. Emily listened intently, her mind racing with the possibilities, but also with the weight of the responsibility that rested on her shoulders. Then, it was their turn. Elon, Emily, the moderator began. You've pioneered one of the most exciting and controversial technologies in recent history. How do you ensure that AI, specifically in healthcare, remains a force for good, especially when it's evolving at such a rapid pace? Elon stood up first, his voice steady, yet filled with urgency. The key is balance. We're moving into an era where AI will become an indispensable part of our daily lives, especially in healthcare. But it's not enough to simply develop powerful technologies. We need to make sure they are aligned with our moral compass, with our shared values. He paused, looking out over the audience. That's why we created the Global Ethics Council. We need to have experts from every field: ethics, medicine, technology, working together to ensure that these advancements are guided by human needs, not just profit or progress for its own sake. Emily followed up, her voice clear and resolute. But it's not just about creating rules and guidelines. It's about fostering a culture of accountability and collaboration. The AI we've developed is a tool, a means to an end, and the end we are striving for is a better, more equitable world for all. The room was silent for a moment as the weight of their words settled in. A question was raised by a delegate from the World Health Organization. What do you say to the people who are concerned that AI will replace human jobs, particularly in healthcare, where personal touch is paramount? Emily smiled, knowing this question would come. This is something we've given a lot of thought to. AI is not meant to replace the human element in healthcare. Rather, it's meant to enhance it. Our technology supports healthcare professionals, giving them tools to provide more effective care while freeing up their time to focus on what truly matters, human connection. Elon added, "We envision a future where AI is a partner in the healthcare system, not a replacement. Just as computers didn't eliminate human teachers, AI won't eliminate doctors. It will, however, give them the resources they need to do their jobs more efficiently, leading to better outcomes for patients." The response was met with a wave of nods and murmurs of agreement from the crowd. The conversation moved forward, with more questions about how the empowerment initiative's work could be scaled globally. Emily and Elon shared their vision for a world where AI-powered healthcare was accessible to all, regardless of socioeconomic status. They discussed plans for global partnerships, collaborations with universities, and expanding the scope of their work to underserved areas. After the summit, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. It was clear that their message had resonated with leaders from all corners of the globe. Yet, amid the praise, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something far bigger than they had ever anticipated. Back in the States, the technology continued to evolve. The next phase of the Empowerment Initiative's exoskeleton technology, with its advanced AI features, was ready for testing. It was now equipped to monitor not only physical mobility but also emotional and psychological well-being. The exoskeleton would adjust to help users cope with stress, anxiety, and even depression by offering personalized interventions. One afternoon, as Emily was overseeing the final tests, she was approached by a mother and her young daughter, Isabella. Isabella was a 10-year-old girl who had been born with a rare neurological disorder that made it impossible for her to move without assistance. Despite her condition, Isabella's bright eyes and infectious smile were a testament to her indomitable spirit. "This is Isabella," her mother introduced, "and we've heard so much about your work. We're hoping that maybe this could help her." Emily knelt down to Isabella's eye level and smiled. "Hi, Isabella. It's so nice to meet you. We've been working hard to make sure our technology can help people just like you. Are you ready to try something new?" Isabella nodded eagerly, her excitement shining through, and Emily felt a wave of emotion. She was reminded once again why this work mattered. It wasn't about the technology itself, it was about changing lives. As they fitted Isabella with the exoskeleton, the room fell silent. For the first time, Isabella stood on her own 2 feet, supported by the technology Emily and her team had created. Her mother's eyes welled up with tears as she watched her daughter take a tentative step. Emily's heart swelled with pride. This was the moment they had all been working toward. The AI, which had once seemed so mysterious and potentially dangerous, was now a bridge to a better future. As the sun set over the horizon, Emily stood at the window of their headquarters, gazing out at the city. The journey had been long, and the road ahead was uncertain. But in that moment, she knew they had crossed a threshold. The world was changing, and their work was a part of that transformation. Elon came up behind her, his voice soft. "You did it, Emily. We did it." Emily smiled, her thoughts racing. "We've just begun." The next few months were a whirlwind of media attention, collaborations, and the increasing pressure of living up to the high expectations that had followed the global summit. Emily and Elon were now household names, not for their wealth or fame, but for the profound changes they were helping to bring about in the world of technology and healthcare. But with the praise came responsibility, an immense weight that sometimes threatened to be overwhelming. As the Empowerment Initiative's exoskeleton technology continued to improve, it began to attract the attention of other industries, medical, military, and even sports. Each sector saw the potential in the technology, But Emily and Elon knew that their primary mission had to remain focused on improving the lives of people like Isabella. They couldn't lose sight of their values just because the world was knocking at their door. One evening, after a long day of meetings with investors, Emily and Elon found themselves in the lab, deep in discussion. The lab was filled with prototypes of the exoskeletons, each iteration more advanced than the last. It was here that they had spent countless hours together, working side by side, building something that had the power to change everything. "We're at a crossroads," Elon said, his voice filled with quiet resolve. "The technology is ready to scale, but I'm starting to wonder if we're moving too fast. We're getting offers from all sides to commercialize this. There's a lot of money at stake, but is that what we really want? Does it align with our mission?" Emily ran a hand through her hair, exhausted but focused. "I think about Isabella every day, about the children, the people who really need this technology. I can't help but feel like we are on the brink of something extraordinary, but we can't let it be taken over by greed. We need to make sure it stays true to its purpose." Elon nodded. "We have to be careful. There's always the risk of losing control once the world starts investing in something like this. We've seen it happen before, where good intentions get twisted." There was a long silence as both of them processed the enormity of what they were saying. For the first time, the enormity of their work seemed almost too big to comprehend. "Let's slow down," Emily said finally, her voice firm. "We need to stay grounded. Let's focus on making sure this technology can do the most good. Let's help those who need it most first. If we get that right, the rest will follow." Elon smiled, his eyes full of admiration for the clarity and conviction in her words. "You're right. We've always known that the real challenge is ensuring we stay true to the people who matter, the ones who are actually going to benefit from this." The next morning, as the two of them were discussing how best to proceed, they received an unexpected call. It was from the president of a nonprofit dedicated to advancing technology for disabled children. The organization had heard about their work and wanted to partner to bring the exoskeletons to children with severe disabilities around the world. The conversation was a game changer. Emily and Elon realized that, rather than letting their work be co-opted by commercial interests, they could direct their efforts toward those who needed the technology the most, children and adults with disabilities who had long been overlooked. By the end of the week, they were in talks with multiple international organizations, planning the logistics of a global rollout. But they knew that they couldn't simply donate the technology and walk away. They would need to set up systems of support, ensuring that the recipients not only had the exoskeletons, but also the training, care, and long-term resources to make the most of them. As they worked with these organizations, the scope of the project expanded beyond anything they could have imagined. They were in contact with healthcare providers in underdeveloped nations where access to healthcare and cutting-edge technology was limited. There was talk of creating a program that would train medical professionals worldwide, teaching them how to integrate AI-assisted rehabilitation into their practices. The future was looking brighter than ever, but it wasn't without its challenges. They faced skepticism, resistance, and at times, overwhelming opposition from some who believed that the technology was too risky or invasive. But every time they felt doubt creeping in, they thought about Isabella and others like her, and the profound impact their work could have on people who had been written off by society. One day, as Emily was reviewing data from one of the international partnerships, she received a call from a hospital in a remote village in South America. A young girl named Sophia, who had been born without the use of her legs due to a rare condition, had recently received one of the Empowerment Initiative's exoskeletons. The news was both humbling and heartbreaking. Sophia, a 10-year-old with an infectious laugh and an unbreakable spirit, had been struggling with the limitations of her condition. But after receiving the exoskeleton, something remarkable had happened. She had taken her first steps, and with it, a future filled with possibilities. Emily was moved to tears as she listened to the voice on the other end of the line. Sophia's mother thanked them profusely, her words trembling with emotion. "You've changed her life," she said. "She's no longer just a patient. She's a little girl again. A little girl with a future." It was a moment that would stay with Emily forever. In that one call, she realized that everything they had worked for, the long hours, the sacrifices, the doubts, had been worth it. They weren't just building technology. They were changing lives in ways they had never imagined. Back in their headquarters, Emily and Elon sat together, reflecting on their journey. The world had changed, and they had played a part in that change. But more than anything, they had helped empower people, given them the chance to reclaim their independence and dignity. "What's next?" Elon asked, his eyes glinting with that familiar spark of curiosity. Emily smiled. "Whatever it is, it's going to be for the right reasons. Let's keep moving forward, together." As they looked ahead, the horizon seemed endless, full of possibilities and challenges. They had built a legacy, but more importantly, they had begun to rewrite the future for millions of people around the world. And this was just the beginning. The next chapter of their journey was unfolding before them in ways they could never have predicted. What had started as an idea, an exoskeleton designed to empower disabled individuals, had grown into something much larger, far more transformative. As Emily and Elon continued their work, they realized that their story had touched a deeper, universal chord. Their collaboration with international nonprofits was only growing stronger. The technology had spread to regions that had once been thought unreachable, offering hope to children and adults who had never dreamed of walking again. As they worked tirelessly on scaling up the empowerment initiative, Emily and Elon knew that they needed to consider the long-term sustainability of their mission. It wasn't just about providing technology, it was about ensuring that the technology would be used for the right reasons, and that it would continue to improve lives far into the future. They began to form a global network of volunteers, medical professionals, and engineers who could offer support and innovation, ensuring that the technology would never stagnate. "We need a way to make sure this lasts," Elon said one day, as the two of them sat in a conference room overlooking the bustling city. "We can't do this alone forever. We need to teach others how to maintain and improve upon what we've built." Emily agreed. "It's not just about the technology anymore. It's about creating an ecosystem, training people, building partnerships with hospitals, schools, and governments. This has to be sustainable." They quickly realized that they would have to think bigger. The world wasn't just asking for exoskeletons. It was asking for a comprehensive solution that integrated technology, healthcare, education, and community support. Their next step was to create the Empowerment Institute, a global organization that would not only provide the exoskeletons but also teach the skills and resources needed to fully integrate this technology into everyday life. They envisioned a future where every hospital, every rehabilitation center, every school for special education could provide their technology alongside training for its use. This vision came to life in the form of the Empowerment Academy, a network of specialized schools and programs that would equip the next generation of medical professionals, engineers, and caregivers to work with advanced technologies like the exoskeletons. It would also serve as a resource for people around the world who wanted to learn how to use the technology effectively and efficiently. The more they discussed the academy, the more excited they became. They knew that their work would never be done, but this was their chance to set something in motion that could change the world for generations to come. They weren't just changing the lives of those who received the exoskeletons. They were creating a platform that would allow others to continue their work, build on it, and ultimately improve it. But their ambitions were not without challenges. As the scale of their mission grew, so did the opposition. Powerful corporate interests were not pleased to see a non-profit initiative disrupting the medical and tech industries. The corporate world was used to controlling the narrative, but now it was being challenged by a vision that put people, not profit, at the center. Emily and Elon faced mounting pressure from all sides. Investors demanded quicker returns on their investments, while some critics in the media questioned whether they were taking on too much too quickly. Elon, ever the visionary, was not deterred by the challenges, but Emily felt the weight of the responsibility more heavily. Every day, she asked herself, "Are we doing the right thing? Are we truly changing the world for the better?" But then, she would think back to the children they had helped, the families who had sent them letters of gratitude, the doctors who reported miraculous improvements. That was what kept her going. It was a Friday afternoon when everything changed. They had just finished a meeting with representatives from several major governments about a new initiative to provide exoskeletons to children in underserved communities worldwide. The meeting had gone well, but the pressure from the outside world was beginning to feel suffocating. As Emily and Elon sat in the quiet of their office, contemplating the future, A knock on the door interrupted their thoughts. It was Isabella, the same little girl who had been their inspiration, the one who had shown them that no challenge was too great to overcome. She was older now, walking steadily on her own with the help of one of their exoskeletons. She had come to the lab with her parents to thank them once again for the gift of mobility. Seeing her, standing tall, smiling, was like a breath of fresh air. Emily's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. She knew this was why they were doing it all. This was why they couldn't stop now. Not when there were still so many more lives to change. "I'm walking because of you," Isabella said, her voice full of wonder and hope. "I never thought I could do this." Elon crouched down to her level, his eyes filled with warmth. "You're the reason we do this, Isabella. You've shown us that anything is possible." And in that moment, Emily and Elon knew they had made the right choice. They were on the right path. The road ahead might be difficult, filled with obstacles and challenges, but the change they were making was real, and it was worth every sacrifice. As Isabella's parents watched from the doorway, they exchanged a look of profound appreciation. They knew that their daughter's life had been irrevocably altered, but they also knew that the world was changing in ways they had never imagined. It was no longer just about technology. It was about people. People like Isabella, like Sophia, and like countless others who had never given up on the dream of a better life. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city, Emily and Elon sat together, knowing that their journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. The world was changing, and they were changing it, one life at a time. It had been weeks since Isabella's visit, but the memory of that moment, her steady steps, the look of joy on her parents' faces, still lingered in Emily's mind. It was a reminder that they were not just changing the world for the better, they were revolutionizing it in a way that would leave a lasting legacy. The Empowerment Initiative had become a symbol of hope and resilience. But the next phase of their mission would require more than just determination. It would require innovation on a scale that they hadn't yet considered. The world was looking to them, waiting for them to deliver the next breakthrough. The idea for the Empowerment Exchange was born from a simple question Elon had posed during a late-night conversation. What if we could build a platform that didn't just distribute exoskeletons, but shared knowledge and experiences, connecting the global community? Emily had been quiet for a moment, letting the idea settle in. Then, the possibilities began to unfold. We could create a digital network where patients, doctors, engineers, and caregivers could share their stories, solutions, and progress, Emily had said, her eyes brightening with excitement. It could be a virtual space where everyone can contribute to improving the technology, collaborative innovation on a global scale. Elon, as always, saw the potential in the idea. It's not just about sharing information. It's about building a community, people helping each other, pushing the limits of what we can do together. It was a bold vision, but both of them knew it was the next logical step. They set to work on creating the Empowerment Exchange, a platform where anyone, anywhere, could access resources, join discussions, and contribute to the growing body of knowledge surrounding the exoskeleton technology. The platform would be open to anyone who wanted to participate, whether they were doctors looking to improve rehabilitation practices, engineers proposing new ideas for the technology, or families who had benefited from the exoskeletons and wanted to share their experiences. The idea was simple. By connecting the brightest minds and the most passionate individuals across the globe, they could create a self-sustaining ecosystem of innovation. Months passed as the platform was developed, and the team expanded to include some of the world's leading technologists, healthcare professionals, and educators. Each new addition brought a fresh perspective, and together they worked tirelessly to ensure the platform could live up to the promise they had made to the world. The day the Empowerment Exchange was officially launched was nothing short of historic. It wasn't just a new product or service, it was a game changer. Within hours, thousands of users from all over the world logged in, creating profiles, uploading content, and interacting with one another. It quickly became a global hub of collaboration and support. But the launch was only the beginning. One of the first major breakthroughs to come out of the platform was a new version of the exoskeleton, one that was even lighter, more flexible, and capable of adapting to different terrains. This was made possible by an engineer from South Africa who had joined the exchange, sharing his insights on how to make the technology more efficient for use in rural areas. Another groundbreaking idea came from a medical professional in India who suggested using augmented reality to help patients practice movements in a virtual space before attempting them in the real world. This would increase confidence and reduce the risk of injury during rehabilitation. These innovations were just the start. As the empowerment exchange grew, it became clear that the possibilities were endless. People from all walks of life were contributing their ideas and experiences, pushing the boundaries of what was possible and creating a ripple effect that was felt around the world. But it wasn't just about the technology anymore. The real magic was happening in the communities that were being built, communities that were united by a shared belief in the power of human potential and the promise of a better future for all. Emily and Elon knew they had created something truly special. They had built not just a platform, but a movement. And as they watched the world connect in new and unexpected ways, they realized that they had become a part of something much larger than themselves. The true test of their work was yet to come, though. As the initiative continued to grow, the challenges became more complex. There were ethical questions about the long-term impacts of their technology, concerns about data privacy on the platform, and the ever-present pressure from governments and corporations that were seeking to control the narrative. But Emily and Elon were prepared. They had faced obstacles before, and they knew they would face many more. The key was to remain true to their mission, to always prioritize the needs of the individuals they were serving, to listen to the voices of the people who were benefiting from their work, and to never stop pushing forward, no matter the challenges. One evening, as the sun began to set behind the horizon, Emily stood by the window of their office, looking out over the city. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and awe. The road ahead would be difficult, but it would also be full of possibility. "We've come a long way," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. Elon nodded, his eyes focused on the screen in front of him. "And we're just getting started." As they sat together, watching the world change in real time, they knew one thing for certain. They had only begun to scratch the surface of what was possible. The Empowerment Initiative was more than just a dream. It was a revolution in the making. And together, they were ready to face whatever came next. The Empowerment Exchange had changed the world. It had empowered thousands of people, connected millions of minds, and opened doors to possibilities that once seemed beyond reach. But as the platform expanded and new technologies emerged, one question loomed larger than ever. How could they ensure that their work would continue to impact future generations, even after they were gone? Emily sat at her desk late one evening, the glow of her computer screen the only light in the room. She had just read through another update from the Empowerment Exchange, noting the success of a new rehabilitation program in Canada and the breakthroughs in exoskeleton technology being developed in remote regions of the world. Every day, the initiative was making a difference. Yet, there was a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. She knew the journey couldn't end here. It couldn't be just about this moment, this success. It had to be about sustainability, about ensuring that the ideas, the mission, and the passion for change could continue long after their work was done. She turned to Elon, who was sitting across from her, his face illuminated by his own screen. He looked up, sensing the weight in the air. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his tone calm, but his eyes sharp with curiosity. Emily sighed, running a hand through her hair. "We've done so much, but I can't help but think about what comes next. How do we make sure this goes on, even after we've stepped away?" Elon leaned back in his chair, thinking for a moment. "You're worried about the legacy of the Empowerment Initiative," he said, his voice thoughtful. "But we've already built something that's self-sustaining. The exchange isn't just us anymore. It's a community." She nodded, but the doubt lingered. "I know. But what happens when the world starts moving in a different direction? When the technology evolves and people forget the purpose behind it?" Elon smiled, a hint of that familiar spark of inspiration in his eyes. "That's the thing about revolutionizing something. It doesn't end with a single achievement. It creates ripples. The platform we've built is designed to adapt and evolve with the times. But the key to keeping it alive is teaching the next generation how to carry the torch." Emily paused, her heart beginning to race as the realization hit her. "You're right. We need to teach them not just how to use the technology, but how to believe in its power. We need to make sure the values behind it, empathy, collaboration, progress are passed down. Elon stood up, walking over to the whiteboard. He began jotting down notes. Let's focus on creating a training program, a way to empower young leaders, people who are passionate about these values. We can create partnerships with schools, universities, and organizations that will integrate these principles into their curriculums. Emily's mind began to race with ideas. They could create scholarships, mentorship programs, and even leadership camps that would equip young people with the tools they needed to drive the next wave of innovation. It wouldn't just be about exoskeletons. It would be about changing the way people thought about disability, about technology, and about each other. What if we made it global? Emily asked. What if we partnered with institutions all over the world, bringing in leaders from every corner of society, educators, social workers, activists, engineers, and gave them the platform to exchange ideas? Elon nodded, his eyes lighting up. Exactly. This could be the next phase. The Empowerment Exchange isn't just a technology platform, it's a movement. And the movement has to continue evolving, just like we have. Together, they began sketching out the plan. They envisioned a future where young leaders, equipped with the tools of empathy and innovation, could continue to advance the work they had started. The program would foster a new generation of thinkers, people who didn't just want to make money, but who wanted to make a difference. They worked late into the night, refining their ideas and mapping out the steps. It was clear to them both that they were on the cusp of something monumental. Weeks later, the announcement was made. The Empowerment Initiative was launching a global leadership program designed to empower the next generation of innovators, thinkers, and changemakers. It would be a long-term investment in the future, one that would ensure the continuation of the mission long after Emily and Elon had stepped back from the spotlight. The program gained immediate attention from global leaders, educational institutions, and even young people eager to join the cause. The world began to recognize that this was more than just a charity. It was a new way of thinking about the future. A future where technology was not just for the elite, but for everyone. A future where collaboration was key and innovation had no limits. As the Empowerment Initiative expanded into this new phase, Emily and Elon stood together, watching as the next generation of leaders stepped up to take the reins. The torch had been passed, and it was clear that the world was ready for the change they had started. Looking out at the horizon, Emily turned to Elon with a sense of peace. We've done it, haven't we? Elon smiled, his eyes full of pride. We've only just begun. And with that, they stepped forward, ready to embrace the future they had worked so hard to create. A future of endless possibilities where no one would ever have to face their challenges alone.